In 2023 October, while in Kisumu State House, President William Ruto signed into a law a privatization bill that was aiming to expedite the privatization of state-owned enterprises by empowering the National Treasury to sell these entities without requiring parliamentary approval. And in October 1st, 2025, the Parliament or the National Assembly passed the privatization bill that allows Kenya Pipeline Company to be privatized. Remember to subscribe and like. This is Real Talk Republic podcast all the way from Kiafrica Studios, and I am Arego. As October 2025, Kenya government listed 11 companies that are set for privatization despite public opposition. And amongst them was Kenya Pipeline Company. And in the list comprises of Kenya Literature Bureau, Kenyatta International Convention Center, Kenya Seed Company Limited, New Kenya Cooperative Creameries, and National Oil Corporation of Kenya, Everready, Liberty Kenya Holding, and HF Group, Stanbic Holdings, amongst the rest. The government stated the reasons why they need to privatize these particular state-owned enterprises. One amongst the reason why the government needed to privatize the state-owned enterprises is to raise money for the fiscal year deficit of the year. That is, they were seeking to raise the deficit of 100 billion, that is specifically for Kenya, from Kenya Pipeline Company, that could have helped in the financial year 2025-2026. And now there have been some of the complaints that was stated by the public, the Kenyans, regarding the privatization of these entities that I've mentioned. There were backlashes and opposition from other people, from the citizens, regarding this particular privatization. But on 1st October, National Assembly passed or put into place the privatization of Kenya Pipeline Company. And in their address that was made by other MPs in the National Assembly, with an example from Ndini Nyoro, Kiharu MP, he stated, "It is very efficient and very lucrative for Kenyan, for you and me to invest into the Kenya Pipeline Company and these other entities." But the question that was posed was regarded into the profitable margins, or the particular entities that can still get into better places as economical stability stabilizes or destabilizes as everything fluctuates. Ndini Nyoro gave an example on how America are doing out theirs, but now today I'm giving you an example on how Safaricom made this particular privatization worked for Kenyans in 2008. Now, National Assembly that approved privatization with initial public offering expected to raise approximately 100 billion. The government intends to sell up to 65% of all stakes in KPC, retaining a minimum of 35%. Now, the launch of the IPO is set, and the government and Kenya Pipeline companies put some of the measures into place for those who are interested to buy these particular shares. And by the way, there were questions that was raised initially by Kenyans regarding the way to acquire these shares. And the administration of President William Ruto said they are going to list these particular shares into NSE to enable every Kenyan to buy these particular shares equitably. Let's take an example of whatever happened in 2008 when every Kenyans were buying shares with Safaricom, and it was being sold at least from 5 shilling for those people who are advantageous to buy the shares at that particular point. And now I believe that this is an opportunity, lucrative opportunity, as it was described by Ndindi Nyoro to Kenyans regarding these particular shares. And what you need to do is follow up on this way and strategics on how to get and buy a share in this from Kenya Pipeline Company. One Kenyan from Machako was asking the KPC and the government to at least list the shares from 10 shilling to 100 to enable Kenyans get an opportunity to buy one. If that of Safaricom we missed in 2008, if this one is on a good side or a good set for us, let us find an opportunity or to base our shares, to buy shares with the KPSC, because they say opportunity comes when it repeats itself. We are on this gender together, in this gender together. Now, before we delve deep into much about the KPC, Kenya Pipeline Company privatization, there are things that you need to know about privatization as a Kenyan, and what actually you need to know about privatization of public assets, the privatization of Kenya Pipeline Company, privatization of KLB, Kenya Literature Bureau, the privatization of other sugar companies, the privatization of Mwea. Kuna zile vitu zenye kila msee anafaa kujua kama mwananchi, kukaa gangari, and zile vitu zenye zinafaa kuwa ineffective before that act ifanyike. So number one, what is privatization? Kenya unafaa kujua on this. Privatization happens when the government sell part of a state-owned company to private investors. In this point, the private investors are coming to be you and me. Now we are the private investors because we are going to contribute 65% of our shares to the KPC, while 35% is leveraged to the government. The government sells a percentage of its shares and retains the rest to safeguard national interest. So our national interest is being safeguarded at KPC at 35% by the government. 65 near to 65 near investors. If you are lucky, you're going to be among us, those people holding that 65%, and the rest of the Kenyans who have not that opportunity to buy the shares when it will be listed by March 2026 will get that 35. However, if a bigger percentage is sold, majority control shift to private hands. Yeah, this is a question. 65% imeenda to investors, the private hands, and that 5% imebaki na the government. So it means that the majority hold at 65. Who are this majority? The majority are the buyers of these shares. And the buyers of these shares, by the way, is going to be you, me, and international investors who is able to buy a share from the KPC. So what does this mean according to the statement that I jotted here? It means that, you see, it's always majority wins over the minority. The naysayers are always wanakuanga wameshindwa na majority hivyo. So if 65% imeenda kwa investors, hopefully you're amongst the investors, it means that uko na msemo kubwa, you have much to say about your assets, your shares towards the KPC, and the government wako na minimum to say about that one. Machache tu kusema that kuhusiana na hiyo. Number two, what are public assets? The question is, what are these public assets? The public assets zenye nimemention, KLB, Mwea, Rice, KPC, there was Telcom, and the rest. Hizi ni nini? Public assets are things that owned and managed by the government on behalf of citizens. And they are built, funded, or maintained using taxpayers' money. They keep strategic resources like oil pipelines, ports, or electricity in public hands and reduce cost by ensuring services are not fully profit-driven. Examples kama hizi assets zenye pia at one point zilikuwa privatized ni kama KenGen, pia ilikuwa one of the resources zenye ni zetu, because they're being maintained by the taxes, the money that we pay through tax. Number three, what the law says about public assets. The Constitution 2010 dictates that people must be involved through public participation before major decisions are made. Now, regarding KPC, Kenya Pipeline Company, being listed on privatization by National Assembly, was there public participation before that happens? Minister of Energy, Opiyo Wandayi, before the National Assembly said the public participation was enacted to every Kenyan. This is like 2 months ago. He said Kenyans were involved into their suggestion, what their thoughts were put into place regarding the privatization of KPC and the incoming other assets that are set to be privatized. Somehow, in 2024, at a point when the bill was passed by President William Ruto, the privatization bill that was giving the National Treasury power to privatize any entity without seeking National Assembly approval, there was naysayers who were saying like public participation was very much important into this particular bill. And that's made the High Court to hold the bill and say like the bill was very unconstitutional. Until later, I'm thinking in March 2025, the High Court said, let it be. Now regarding KPC, I've seen over social media, the KPC management and the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Energy, they've been engaging individuals in different parts. But at this point, we must get to understand that not majority of Kenyans are always engaged into this matter. And that raises the question like, kina nani wanasikizwa? You see, kina nani wanasikizwa? Because KPSC, they say they have engaged. I don't think they engaged mtu from mashinani much of that. They engaged that the people from Laikipia who are worried about the employees, who are worried about the future of KPC, the pricing and the things like that. But not a lot of people are engaged on this one. But engagement, easy vitus politics, it doesn't involve wider range, because you will find even somebody saying, I've engaged with the ground and ground said this, I should do this, and the ground is maybe 2 or 3 people, if more, 10 persons. Okay. Privatization Act 2023 that was signed into act by President William Ruto, into law by President William Ruto, guides how sales are done. They must all be transparent and fair. So they must be all transparent and fair. That's why the president now and KPSC, the government, that is the National Treasury and Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, and the KPSC said, to be fair and to be transparent, we are going to list these shares into NSE so that everyone can see how transparent it is for you to acquire a share from this. The courts have authority to stop or challenge the process of privatization if proper procedures are not followed. Now, the big question today is the procedure of privatizing KPC, Kenya Pipeline Company. How is the procedure? Was the procedure done in a correct way? Was the procedure followed? Was there public participation? And now the government said, the way I've stated, Minister of Energy and Petroleum, Opiyo Wandayi, said, we engaged them and Kenyans accepted these into particular law. Now, what are these things that you need to look for whenever you heard the government is privatizing an asset? You've remember we've mentioned about public assets. These are things that are being funded by the taxpayers' money, maintained by taxpayers' money. You have a say on it. Now, what are the things that you should look on this? Who is buying? That's the first thing that you should look or find out, like, who is buying these assets? Are they local citizens or foreigners or just insiders? Insiders, wenye wako hapo, ndani ya company, that is like employers. And for this instance, or for this case, the people that are given higher percentage, like the government is saying, like, we want majority of the buyers to be Kenyans, to be local citizens. Though foreign investors are not barred from it, but we want majority of these buyers to be you, to be me, to be just Kenyans. That's why in this episode particularly, I'm telling you, like, if it's going to be listed, the process is on. The process is on. The procedures are being followed. All those measures are being put into place. The brokers deal, the legal ways are all being set into place. That's up to yesterday, 13th of October. Now get an opportunity, because you are the buyer here. You are the buyer. You are the one that is being given a bigger consideration whenever you are into NSE and you want to buy these assets or these shares. Will workers lose job or benefit from shares? Now, when KPSC was set to be privatized, the workers from KPSC had their strike, and the union said, like, we are against privatization of KPC because the workers are going to lose their job, and the agreement are going to be, there is going to be new agreements, and with that we are not we don't have job security. And before the National Assembly, Minister of Energy and Petroleum, Opiyo and I, said, like, the workers are not going to lose their job. The workers, there will be no changes, and these employees will retain their position, their job at KPSC. Minister said that these effects are only into the shares, are only into buyouts of this particular company, and not in effect to the workers. Now I read you whatever Opiyo and I said. He assured that there will be no interference with current job structures and that no staff will be laid off as a result of privatization. Additionally, Parliament has pledged not to approve any privatization process that undermines workers' rights. So in this point, if you're watching this episode and you're amongst workers at KPC, I know you know this. If your relative works there and you're concerned, like, oh, nilipewa promise, like, atanitafutiwa space hook and things are going to flop after this happens, nothing is going to happen about that. Your relative, your parent is working at KPC and you're worried. No, they are safe. The Parliament says they are safe and they're going to maintain these. And Minister of Energy and Petroleum also said everything is okay. But tensions have remained despite the promises that was imposed by Ministry of Energy and Petroleum. There was strikes before that, and later on it was settled by court and the ministry. Now, let's move to the next what you should know about privatization. Mark you, these are very important for you as a Kenyan, because these assets are owned by mimi na wewe. KLB, we read much about KLB. Now let's continue. Is the process rushed without proper consultation, especially consultation of the public? I will not repeat about this one because I've said that KPSC have done their public participation. This is amongst the things that were put into place before this privatization happens. And we've also Ministry of Energy and Petroleum did theirs, Treasury did theirs. So will government still keep enough control to protect national interest? The government is keeping that 5%. When the government is keeping 35% and investors are taking away 65%, it means they're stable. You see, for 65%, from this analogy, 65% is diluted. The investors is not just single person. They are different people because they are shareholders. Indo ile kitu yenye Sasa this is the part of shareholding ya Gachagua alikuwa na mention sometimes. Now, it's 65% is diluted. There are various investors into this one, many who are going to buy these 65% shares. And for 35% is very solid. It is maintained by the government, very, very solid. So it means like the government is in control of the interest of the KPC and Kenyans who are paying taxes to maintain this particular asset or entity. Now, another thing that you should ask yourself as Kenya is like, how will the money raised be used? Is it for debt repayment, development, or loss to corruption? I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that this for KPC that it is estimated that they are going to raise estimated to 100 billion. This 100 billion was to contribute into the fiscal year, but now it is being said to contribute into, that is, financial year 2026-2027, the 100 billions for them development. Why your voice matters? Your voice matters. Whatever you say also matters. Public assets belong to the people of Kenya. Your inputs ensures the privatization is transparent, fair, beneficial to citizens. Your role is to ask questions, attend forums, and demand accountability. Now, you need to, when you had about these engagements over social media, contribute, ask about much to do, share this particular episode and this podcast so people can know whatever is happening into this sphere of privatization and the happenings that are there. So, there is a question that I was also asked before I said for this particular episode, the measure the government has put in place for the IPO launch for the Kenya Power that I mentioned for you. There is public offering on NSE, Nairobi Nairobi Stock Exchange, with the government has chosen public offering on NSE as preferred method for privatization of KPC to ensure transparency and fairness. Transaction advisors and public participation. To manage IPO process, the government plan to appoint transaction advisors, including stockbrokers, legal consultants, and other service providers. The selection will be based on quality cost method. Fixed fees for due diligence, structuring, and public participation are estimated at approximately 100 million, with additional success-based fees and commission to be drawn from IPO proceeds. And then use of IPO proceeds. The question there that I've just completed in the latter statement or paragraph. The anticipated 100 billion raised from the IPO will be allocated to funding critical development. Now, the usage of this particular, raised money from the privatized assets, settling pending liabilities, including compensation claims and legal disputes, reducing government borrowing, and strengthening Kenya capital markets. Then number 4, that is a big concern to every Kenyan, is about employee job security. The government has assured that there will be no job losses resulting from the privatization of KPC, as I mentioned. Regulatory and approval timeline. The cabinet approved the method and the National Assembly endorsed the requisite season paper on October 1st. Privatization Commission issued formal notice on 9th October 2025. And another question that I was asked about is about how the employees are going to benefit from the shares. This was a great question that I received before rolling these particular episodes, because there are somehow that the employees might be limited into acquiring these particular assets. And what I found out is that employees' shares ownership plans, the possibility of employee shares allocations, with some IPOs, a set portion of shares specifically for employees, either at a discounted price or through special allocation to encourage ownership and align interests with the company's success. Yet to be put in place. It's not official, but I think this will be the greatest measures on how the employees, the current employees, and the future employees of KPC are going to benefit from this one. What employees have requested so far is about their job security. They are saying, you see, I've talked about how union, how they went to court, how they are worried about their job security after the privatization of KPC and other assets. And now the government, through the Ministry of Treasury and Energy and Petroleum, have just promised that no changes are going to be made and guarantee against layoff. The government has promised about that one. Employees unions pia wamenegotiate na government na company management to share for shares for workers as part of the privatization bill. And the buyers, as I've mentioned, it is you. But how do I participate if I am a buyer? How do you participate if you are a buyer? When it's going to be launched officially? I mean, I'm saying like 2008 for Safaricom, we were out. And today they are getting yearly, they must get something from that. I'm fan of Ndindi Njoro, how he speaks of buying shares, how he speaks of employment and investing, and how he speaks of just being focused into changing your ways into getting money, and it terms in buying shares from different companies, from banks, as a good method, a good way. That first world countries are even buying shares from the missiles. Now, from AI, people are buying shares from AI, and by the way, they're talking about AI being the greatest one. How do you participate? You open a CDSC account. Choose your best preferred account, I mean banking, to buy a CDSC account that is necessary for holding and trading shares listed on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Alafu engage na licensed stock broker. Choose a reputable stockbroker who can facilitate your participation in the IPO. Si tu broker yote tu anakwambia I can do this, and you are like, you want to invest, buy shares worth 1 million, and boom, things flops because the person that you choose did not work it better for you. Monitor IPO announcement. Now stay informed, because we've said about this one, they're set to launch IPO. Monitor it, stay informed. When are they launching? Ask your neighbor, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell you. Remind yourself about this one if you're serious about buying shares from the KPC. And what? Stay informed about the MPS launch date and application procedures through official channels and media outlets. Now, just like I've mentioned, 280 ilitumiz ya sahi sasa imekam ya KPC, and the buyers ni sisi ndo tunabai bigger percentage. I mean, consideration kubwa ni kwetu sisi wote. So what you need to do is get yourself in, be ready, and whenever you're going to be ready, I think up to this point, the knowledge I have is that everything, there is a say that was once said by the late president of Nigeria, Muhammad Buhari, who said, Baba go slow, those who went fast never reached. He said that in pidgin, Baba go slow, those who went fast never reached their destination, or maybe they got stuck. And Bola Tinubu answered like, even if we are so squeaky like mama's old car, we will still reach that destination. What do I mean? If you're investing, you're buying your assets with KPC, inshallah, don't anticipate like you are going to make millions soon. No, it's about the process. Don't anticipate like within a month you're going to get high about the payment. This also implies to money market fund. Though Minister of Treasury said that money market funds are now fluctuating, and we need to get an option. Maybe KPC is an option for you. I had my sister talk about shares with the Safaricom, and now today I think I'm getting ready, Chief, and you need to get ready also to be talking about KPC shares. But before you get into the shares, talk about the debts with the KPC, the debts, the profit margin, and the losses. Find about that. Do research about KPC, the future. What's the future with KPC? Are you sure you are going to get interest? That's to the knowledge they have. All the best. Subscribe and like Dango. Till next time, this is Arego.